Good morning and greetings from Northumberland on the 25th of November. It's a cold morning and it's not a good day to be outside. Yesterday I went to bed with a really heavy heart, having seen the news, but I also went with a heavy heart because I took a bet with myself what the headlines would say this morning. And I thought the headlines will first of all blame the people smugglers, and then they will blame the French government, and they will say this is a terrible tragedy. Well, all of those things are in part true. But we also need to remember that we as a country, as a nation, and our government, who, whether we agree or not, are acting on our behalf, have a part to play in this terrible tragedy of 31 people, including a little girl and 5 women, being killed in the Channel yesterday. Because we have to ask ourselves what desperation causes people to put out to sea in a little boat, in the most busy and dangerous shipping lines in the country. And they do so because they are desperate. For 4 years before I moved to Northumberland, I worked day by day, every day really of the year, with people who were Christian asylum seekers from Iran. But I also met asylum seekers from West Africa, from North Africa, from Russia, and from many other places. And for so many of them there was a common story. The poor ones, the ones who couldn't get a flight, were people who had been transported across Europe. Many of them had been abused, first physically and mentally in their own countries, and then on the journey. Many of them had been trafficked and exploited. Some had been raped and sexually abused. And all of them bore the scars of the journey. I met people who came in those little boats across the Channel. And all of those people had something in common. They were human beings. And many of them were simply seeking a better life because of abuse, persecution, exploitation, and a whole list of things in their own countries. And we need to remember, although our papers often portray us as having a terrible refugee crisis, our country takes so many less refugees, 1% of the number that Turkey takes, a quarter maybe of what Germany takes and France takes. The statistics are there if we look for them. So today I am filled with sadness. And I read this morning a little thought from an Anglican religious sister who lives in Wales, almost a hermit, and she said this: 31 beloved human souls drowned in the Channel today. Each one of them was a unique, precious human being. May they find safe shores in God's heavenly kingdom. May we fight for safe shores on the kingdom of the earth. If we are moved today by the plight of those 31 people and the many, many, many thousands more who will have died trying to escape terrible situations at home, let us seek for justice, for peace, and for a welcome for people who would, in many ways, enrich our own country. But above all, let us look at them as brothers and sisters, not as problems, but as children of God. May God bless them and us, and fill our hearts with compassion.